Hello, everyone. It has been a while, but I am back to tell you about the IDP 5 for RPO football. We are going into week 8. We're starting to get into the dark days of fall. It's getting cold, the sun's going down early, and your fantasy matchups are probably starting to heat up. These are the weeks where you have to start making moves. You have to start looking at what is in front of us. How can we make the push to the playoffs? And when the playoffs are here, how are you going to continue the momentum that you've built from this week? So, everyone, lock in. It's the IDP 5 RPO football week 8. The best player I saw this week, or at least one of my favorite players from the week, is probably the king of IDP. He has been for the last 2 to 3 years. You can argue other players, but I have always been a staunch defender of Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, without a doubt, is probably the best linebacker in the NFL. I think he's on a short list for sure of one of the most dominant and deserving of the number one spot. But this past week, I think he finally reminded us why he is this player. He's had sort of I don't want to say he's had a slow year, but it's been kind of a boring year by his standards. We're not getting the humongous weeks, but it's just been consistently in that top 5 to 7 group of linebackers. But this past week, he had 11 solo tackles, 7 assisted tackles, and a forced fumble. There is quite literally not much else you can expect from a linebacker, especially one who was arguably the first one off the board in redraft leagues and the dynasty linebacker one. The Ravens are always going to be known for defense. I know they have the flashy offense. I know we all love Lamar Jackson. He's playing at a very high level. But when you think of the Baltimore Ravens, you think of defense. And Roquan Smith has taken the mantle that Ray Lewis laid the foundation for, and he is running with it. And IDP managers and football fans alike can appreciate and should appreciate the best linebacker in the league, Roquan Smith. Cincinnati Bengals fans, I am going to once again talk about my favorite team. And I know I have a bias and I'm a homer and yada yada yada, but there is some more positivity we have with the Bengals that we need to discuss. I went on here and I bashed the defense, the first video I did against the Bengals, and that was because both Hendrickson and Hubbard were not playing up to par. Well, we've seen a turn on the defense a little bit. We're starting to see some wins there. But there's one player in particular who I feel like is really starting to set himself apart from the rest of the team, and that is Jermaine Pratt. When you think of the Bengals linebackers, a lot of people default to Logan Wilson. And Logan Wilson is a good player. He's one that I have doubted in the past, and he has made me eat my words almost every single time since then. But Jermaine Pratt is somebody who went probably a little under the radar to start the year. When you think of Cincinnati Bengals linebackers, I almost guarantee the first person you think of is Logan Wilson. But Jermaine Pratt is having a career year as the linebacker two on the Cincinnati Bengals, and I don't think that this is going to change. We're 8 weeks in. This is no longer going to be something that is a fluke. It's something that we need to prepare for. And if you have Jermaine Pratt, start him every single week. There shouldn't even be a question here. But if you have the opportunity to acquire him, or you're looking for a little bit of depth on your team, or you're looking to just continue to improve your dynasty teams, go get Jermaine Pratt. I know that the value is not there anymore. If you got him at the beginning of the year, it was arguably for, I wouldn't say free, but it was pretty cheap. Now he's probably going to cost a pretty penny, but if you're on a contending roster and you need a linebacker or you're looking to improve your linebacker core, he is the perfect person to add to your lineup. He is playing out of his mind. I think this is going to continue. And he's on a Bengals defense that's still a little leaky. So the tackle opportunities are unfortunately going to be there for him. And we need to take advantage of that while he's still hot. So Jermaine Pratt is my number 2 player for the week that I think that we need to start appreciating a little more than we already have. My number 1 negative player, somebody who's kind of let me down over the course of the last, I don't know, end of last year, going into the beginning of this year, and now I'm just completely over him, is Washington Commanders defensive tackle Daron Payne. I think maybe the last year and a half to 2 years, you could argue that he was a top 5 player at his position in Dynasty IDP Fantasy Football. But right now, he's just not doing anything. I don't know if it's because of a lack of credible pass rushing threats alongside him, so he's getting the bulk work of the offensive line. I don't know if he just can't finish plays. If you're in leagues with pressure rates, feel free to comment and tell me how dumb I am, but I just don't think he is that guy anymore. When the Commanders made a change at head coach, they went to Dan Quinn, and I was pretty excited about Dan Quinn being the guy to kind of continue that defensive prowess that Ron Rivera laid. But since Dan Quinn has taken over, Deron Payne has been essentially worthless. Defensive tackle is not a sexy position. A lot of IDP leagues may not even require you to have one. But the good ones, the Aaron Donalds of the world and Deron Payne up until this season, were very effective players. But Deron Payne has been neutralized, and we need to react to this now before he continues to clog our roster and hurt us. And while I believe the opportunity is still there for him to make plays, we are only 8 weeks in, so I'm not going to say that his season's completely over. I just can't justify starting him in my lineups. So if you're not as risk averse as I am and you're like, okay, I'll keep him on my bench, I think that's a fair compromise. But me personally, I'm offloading him. I think that the defensive line and defensive tackle specifically can be, you can get those points in the aggregate, getting multiple players or even streaming if you have to. And Deron Payne is the perfect player to be viewed as a roster clogger because his name is just credible enough in IDP for you to continue to go, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen this week. It's going to happen this week. Well, I'm sorry, guys. I'm out. I don't think it's going to happen this week. I don't think it's going to happen this season. And until I see something change, I'm out, Deron Payne. I'm sorry. I'm no longer going to accept this roster pain. Huh? The second person that I'm going to talk about negatively here is Jesse Bates, the safety for the Atlanta Falcons. But I want to go on record here and I want to say he is not having a bad season. But in comparison to where you acquired him or drafted him or the expectations you and I both had for him, he's been a letdown to the point where we're starting to see players with less name recognition, with less value, and less credibility for IDP rosters having better seasons. Because of this, I think that he is somebody that I'm going to start looking at over the next couple of weeks, depending on my roster, depending on my leagues and how I'm doing, potentially being a trade deadline guy who I'm going to try to maximize to make a late season run. Obviously, this is roster dependent. If you are in a credible spot and you feel like he's producing enough for you to contend, I totally understand why you would still play him. But for me, he was acquired. He was expected to be a top 3 safety this season, and he's flat out not doing that right now. And because of this, I think I can get something for the short term that could potentially help me contend. Or if I'm a rebuilding roster guy, he can get me something that'll set me up for the next couple of years. So don't be finicky about getting a draft pick for him or getting a player that helps you in the long term for him. And if you're a contending team, try to get somebody that'll help your roster improve and set you up for that late season playoff and Super Bowl run. So Jesse Bates, until I see something different, you're minimally going on my bench. But depending on my rosters, I might move you. And you know what? Prove me wrong, man. And finally, the last guy I'm going to talk about is the favorite of the week, the sleeper pick, Malik Mustafa of the San Francisco 49ers. We all know that the San Francisco 49ers GM is John Lynch, arguably one of the best safeties the NFL has ever produced. So when John Lynch makes a pick in the draft for a safety, I'm going to pay attention. The 49ers already have pretty good safeties, but Talanoa Hufanga specifically cannot stay healthy. He cannot stay on the field. When he's on the field, he's dynamic. He looks like a mini Troy Polamalu, but he can't stay on the field. And when he's off the field, we're seeing Malik Mustafa step up and step out. He has 12 tackles last week against arguably the best team in the league. He went one-on-one with Mahomes. Now, he got plowed over by Mahomes and the dad bod comment we all saw, but this guy is a gamer. He's a rookie. He's a rookie. How often are rookies going to be available in dynasty leagues? It would not shock me at all if by the end of the season, Malik Mustafa was playing more than Talanoa Hufanga and just outright wins the job. One of my favorite sports phrases or words is Wally pipping someone. For those unfamiliar, Lou Gehrig was not the starting first baseman for the New York Yankees until Wally Pipp got hurt. And when Wally Pipp got hurt, Lou Gehrig never missed a start for the rest of his career. I believe that maybe Malik Mustafa isn't exactly Lou Gehrig level of a player, but I think the injury sentiment and then just being outplayed, that remains in sports. We are in a microwave society. What have you done for me lately? Right now, Hufanga is starting to pile up injuries. Despite how good he is, he's not on the field. Malik Mustafa, in early opportunities, is showing us that he deserves some more playing time. And I think eventually, by the end of this season, he will usurp that job and he will be the starting safety for the San Francisco 49ers. Get him while you can, trade for him if you can. He's a rookie. He's a rookie. He is a rookie. Malik Mustafa, the sleeper of the week for the IDP 5. That's it for the IDP 5 this week, guys. My name is Matthew Montgomery. As always, follow me on all the socials at MattMontyFF. Thank you for watching the RPO Football YouTube page. If you're looking for any more of my works, I have a weekly IDP stock market article that goes live every week for footballguys.com. Let's have ourselves a wonderful week 8. Let's go win our leagues. Let's start making that playoff push. And don't be afraid to start tinkering with those rosters in a huge way as we are starting to get to that trade deadline money style weeks. Where are we at? Have those hard conversations with yourself and look at your roster. And if you can win, start making the moves now before your teammates start locking in as well.